and welcome to Movies, Films, and Flicks. I am Mark Hoffmeyer, and joining me is an amateur farmer and bourbon enthusiast, John Levingood.
And I'm wearing alpaca socks.
Yeah. I love the shade that they threw at him on that news report where they're amateur farmer and bourbon enthusiast. Right. Like they just whoever worked on that news report and did the whatever, I can't think of it, the scroll on the bottom, define Nicolas Cage's character, and just to call him an amateur farmer. They could have just said farmer. Like, they could have said that, but it makes me very happy. Bourbon enthusiast. Well, I like a little bourbon.
I guess when the entirety of your farm is 6 alpacas, though.
Yeah, that's true. That's a beautiful place that they live on. They don't really need the money, right? He just bought alpacas to have alpacas? Is that... Because Teresa seems to do really well, and they have a gigantic house. I guess it was his father's. They don't seem to be struggling for cash. So is that more a hobby, the alpacas?
So that's a good question, although I feel like I read something into this movie that this movie did not tell us.
What was that?
I suspect that they moved there because they had to financially because of all the bills from her cancer.
Oh.
Because and when she was up in the attic doing remote meetings with her financial planning clients, she was totally stressed out about losing clients because of the bad reception that they have all the time. Mm-hmm. And so she's very worried about that. So I think that they actually moved there because of financial problems, and that they did not put that in any way in the script. This is just like a theory, if you will, of mine, right? And then I thought that Nick Cage, what is the character's name? I don't know why that.
Nathan,
okay. And Nathan, I think, is doing that as a way of trying to build money, and that's why he gets so stressed about them.
I mean,
so I might be inventing something that isn't there.
A plot out of space? Is that what you're doing?
Right. I'm pulling something out of space. The financial theory out of space.
What color would you call it?
Well, it's not green because they're worried about it. There's not enough of it. Yeah. It's more like they're in the red.
Yeah. Oh gosh. So I was looking up alpaca costs, and they're between $3,000 and $10,000. So those were little when he bought them. So let's say he got $3,000. So he put $18,000 in them, and that's a big investment. So if they were swimming in it, they wouldn't be worried about $3,000 or $18,000 worth of alpaca. Does that make sense? Like
Again, I think you can go either way. So yeah, like I'd like to think he's worried because of the finances, but then again, if this is just his passion project, he'd be stressed no matter what, right?
True. This is quite the performance by Nick Cage, and I adore it, man. I know I just want to... Okay, can I tell you something real quick, John? That something's been bothering me lately, and I just want to run it by you. I know it's not the financial thing we were talking about, but...
I'm here for you. I'm an active listener for your feelings.
Thank you, John. What I think is interesting is that with his latest movie coming out in Pig, people right now are saying this is a Nicolas Cage resurgence. He has come out of the direct-to-DVD doldrums, and he is now making a name for himself. But that doesn't seem entirely correct to me, because in 2021, he also had Willy's Wonderland, which was a lot of fun. Prisoners of the Ghostland. I mean, he went out to Japan and shot that. I mean, just with Sia Sono, like a really excellent director. And then he had Color Out of Space in 2019. He popped up in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, Teen Titans. Then he did Mandy in 2018. 2017, he had Mom and Dad. Now, I'm just covering the really good ones. Dog Eat Dog, major director, The Trust. People like that a lot. So yeah, he had Left Behind, he had Outcast. But then he also had Joe and The Croods. So this is a guy who I just don't think... And he kicked off 2010 with Kick-Ass and Sorcerer's Apprentice. And the year before was Bad Lieutenant. I don't think he's gone anywhere. I don't like this narrative of he's back. Because, yes, he did admit to taking direct-to-DVD movies where he works for 3 weeks, 1 week, to pay off his debts. But he has been popping up in some really funky, excellent, non-Hollywood, aggressive, creative films with really interesting filmmakers. So when people talk about him now, like, oh, the resurgence of Cage. And you know what's awesome? Like, I'm part of the Georgia Film Critics Association. We gave him Best Actor for Pig, which made me really happy. But
amazing.
Oh, man. It's all him. That's what I like. There's no prosthetics. There's no accent. There's no... it's not based on a real character. It's just a raw meditative, beautiful performance. But I don't know what you think, John. I don't think he ever left us. I mean, maybe
So
he left the mainstream. Not for maybe he didn't leave for cinephiles, but he left for the mainstream because the
so
mainstream's not watching Mandy.
as you're telling me this, I'm realizing that I disagree with what I once thought, which was kind of the same thing as this article was suggesting, right?
Hmm.
So it seems like he's constantly been present. He just hasn't been as present in the big theatrical releases. He used to be the it guy, though, with like
Yeah.
two huge Hollywood movies a year. And I mean like huge. And now it's, so uh, Wally's Wonderland, like that was cool, but that's not a big theatrical release, right?
Hmm.
And Mandy, which we loved, not a big theatrical release, was it? I assume not.
You know, I don't know what happened, John, but I one day I think I had some free time, and I just when was this? 2016? All the way back then. Wow. No, when did Mandy come out? 2018. It was
18, 19?
2018, and I just had I don't know what it was, but I was like, I'm gonna look at movie times. I'm gonna see what's out because I got Megan's working tonight. I might just go check out a movie, and I just saw Mandy one night only at this theater. So I was
One
like,
night only.
I'm like, I'm gonna go see Mandy. So I don't think it received a wide theatrical release, but I got lucky and I caught the one night that it screened. And I think that's why I love it so much, John. And I wrote my thoughts about this movie. I wish I could have caught Color Out of Space as well. But yeah, going back to what you're saying, yeah, he hasn't been mainstream, right? He's been turning in funky work, but not in National Treasure 3.
Yeah, but then recently, Color Out of Space, I'd call that, at least for horror, that was a big release.
Yeah.
At least for horror, right? Like, but I think it's a tremendous, awesome movie. And then, Pig, holy crap. Like, I feel like that's an Oscar bait movie without trying to make Oscar bait movie at all. And then with this new thing coming out with Pedro Pascal,
Yeah.
that is like his first, what I'll call like truly mainstream huge movie in a while. Like that just looks, the trailer had like the inner me doing backflips and the real me afraid of breaking his neck trying to do a backflip. Um, but like, yeah, so I guess he's coming back to like the big main stage, but right. Yeah. He's been constantly in a lot of interesting, quirky things that maybe make the Cage fans even happier. Because lately, I feel like these movies have been embracing his weirdness more. And speaking of which, did you not? I know this is a
His
general
accent
Cage.
change. Sorry.
Did you see a good bit of Castor Troy from Face Off in his wig out scenes in Color Out of Space?
Oh, did I? Don't get mad at me. Don't get.
Just get out of. I'm going to get out of your face, Lavinia. Or let me make it easier for you.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Get out of yours. And the way he held his hands, and then he even did a Castor Troy emulating John Travolta finger face thing to his wife. There was, and I'll bet that was his idea. He seemed to be conjuring a bit of Castor Troy.
That's really. I bet you because he said he went places on this, and I bet you during the filming he went out there, he got out there, and we've talked about this, John. When you find that groove, you do draw from past. Like when you're in the zone, you probably do draw from that. So yeah, absolutely. I think he did that because that was in. Maybe do you think he could have planned it, or do you think he was just so in the zone he did it? Do you think
maybe it's just like when he was doing Face Off, or maybe some other things too, but Face Off is what I think of. When he was conjuring his most erratic, manic parts of that character, this is just what came out. It wasn't that he was thinking this is this character.
Yeah.
And so then we're just seeing it again, but again with the hand motions and this tilted head, and I don't know, just the way he enunciated it made me think of just like a frenetic Castor Troy. And I love seeing it. It's just for moments here and there. And other parts, his emotional range in this movie, by the way, it's like it's wild what he pulls off.
Richard Stanley wanted him to be pretty relaxed for the first hour, and then he kind of kicks it into overdrive when he's slamming in his car and yelling. And I mean, his accent changes in this, or his inflection, the way he speaks. because in the beginning he's very, I enjoy his time for you to do the dishes, and then
Right.
he's talking about being a leg man, and he's quite charming, but he's also that drinker dad who sleeps on the chair to go to
Mhm.
sleep after a couple whiskeys, which I kind of love. I believe him in that. Remember when his kid uh, gets shocked by the color, and when Jack sees the color and he pours a scotch immediately,
Right.
like he's I don't know, but he pulled that off so well. The first time though, I got to tell you, John, I've always loved this movie. The first time I loved it more for, I would say, Madeline Arthur's character, for Elliot Knight. I liked him a lot. I thought Brendan Meyer was really good. Jolie Richardson, the places she went while stuck to her son Julian Hillard.
Oh
I mean,
wow.
she emotionally was there. At first when I watched this, I fell in love with the colors, the sound design, the editing. The same guy who edited this, he also worked on Mandy and Pig, so he's a wonderful editor. The guy knows how to really draw emotion out. But I thought
He's a cageist.
He's yeah, he's not cagey about doing cage movies. He needs to do a cage diving movie with Cage. Oh, brother. But yeah, this movie, I felt like Cage's over the topness was a little bit of a detriment to me, because you're supposed to have this cosmic horror and I don't know much about Lovecraft. You know more about Lovecraft than I do, but when I think of but Reanimator went out there, and it seems like people like combining humor with Lovecraft a decent amount. But I like, I guess a movie like this, I wanted to be dragged in. Like Mandy, that movie is just so oppressively bleak and beautiful. I wanted that. And there is a freak out scene, but it feels like a warranted freak out scene. This one, I'm not going to say exploitative with his freakouts, but I definitely got taken out a little bit of it. But the more I've watched it, I probably watched this 5 times. The more I've watched it, the more I've learned to really embrace what he's doing in this movie. Because I think sometimes, for me at least, I thought I had a mental block. I'm like, oh, it's Nick Cage freaking out again. But if you watch it, it's very measured, and you can't even be surprised. I mean, he started freaking out in Vampire's Kiss, in Valley Girl, and Moonstruck. He's been doing this his entire career, so I don't even like calling it a freak out. But this is a very long way of me saying that I didn't love it at first, but now I love it. But it took me 4 viewings, 5 viewings to get on his wavelength.
Yeah. Okay.
What did that happen to you, or no? Were you
No,
immediately?
I just I mean I felt there was a little familiarity to me in the nature of his freakouts. Right. And I hadn't even really placed the face-offiness that I feel that I see until like viewing number 4 out of about 5 for me. So that was very recent before it just struck me as a cagey thing to do. But I guess so as I saw it more and more though, I feel like we're seeing each character in the family taking a very different trajectory into Lovecraftian madness.
Yeah,
We are seeing him go into the more, I don't know how to call. I mean, it's not stereotypical, but like just a more what we would think of in a horror movie of someone going mad. I feel like he's doing more of that, right?
yeah,
More of an in the mouth of madness, just full tilt nuts, right? Whereas um, other characters are being affected differently, and I think it's because of their character interests. Because so Teresa, she's just kind of zoning out, but her character had different, what I'll call weaknesses or stressors, because each character has their own kind of things that would make them vulnerable to something
like
supernatural in
their
a horror
dog
movie.
and that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Right. Well, in this, I mean, so Cage has the drinking.
Oh
They
yeah.
really did a good job showcasing the drinking in this movie. I think there are 11 scenes where you see him pour bourbon in this movie. 11. And even if I'm off by one, still, there's a lot. It's a lot. It's not just talked about. They're both, the whole family is stressed out over the mom's cancer situation, right? Lavinia is doing these, I don't know if they were Alexandrian or Wiccan, kind of